Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most pressing questions on the global stage. Is Europe prepared for war again? With geopolitical tensions rising to their highest point in decades, the European continent is facing a tough reality. Decades of military downsizing have left them vulnerable. But as we enter 2024, there's a massive push to rearm and reorganize. Today we're going to talk about what led to Europe's military decline, the current efforts to rebuild, and what this could mean for the future of global conflict. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind the clock to the Cold War era. Back then, Europe was a powder keg, with NATO on one side and the Soviet Union on the other. The prospect of World War III was a daily fear, and both sides built up vast armies. From advanced tanks to high-tech fighter jets and massive artillery stockpiles, Europe, especially under NATO, was ready for war. Thankfully, the worst-case scenario never came to pass. But after the Soviet Union fell, so did the urgency to maintain such massive military forces. Peace seemed to be on the horizon. The European nations, feeling secure, shifted focus away from their military budgets. In many cases, they repurposed that money into building stronger economies and welfare programs. After all, without a major existential threat nearby, why spend billions on defense? Fast forward to 2022, and that sense of security evaporated almost overnight. Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent shockwaves through Europe and beyond. Suddenly, the old Cold War fears returned, and the once dormant European military complex was thrust back into the spotlight. But there was a problem. European armies weren't nearly as prepared as they were 30 years ago. As of the start of 2022, European countries were producing around 230,000 rounds of 155mm artillery shells per year. That number jumped to 400,000 by 2023 in response to the crisis in Ukraine. And by 2026, they're expected to hit 2 million rounds annually. But even that may not be enough. Most of these rounds are being sent to Ukraine under the Act in Support of Ammunition Production Program, or ASAP. Back home, Europe's ammo reserves are dangerously low, and the military equipment many nations rely on is outdated. So how did Europe fall so far behind? It's not just about the lack of urgency. There's a logistical issue at play too. One key reason is that European nations have standardized their military equipment under NATO guidelines. This means that countries across the continent use the same types of ammunition, aircraft, and other weapon systems. For example, the 155mm artillery shell is used by the majority of European nations, ensuring that in the event of war, supplies can be shared. The same applies to small arms ammunition, with 5.56mm rounds used across various European armies. Let's talk about the F-35 for a moment. 11 European nations, including 10 NATO members, have placed orders for these fifth-generation fighter jets. Why? Because it streamlines logistics and allows for greater interoperability between NATO forces. If a European nation's air force takes heavy losses, another member state can step in with the same jets, requiring fewer adjustments. With over 600 F-35s on order, Europe is trying to build a unified air force capable of competing with Russia's technological edge. But even with this massive buildup, there's a lingering fear: Russia's hypersonic missile advantage. These weapons can strike targets before most traditional air defenses even have time to react. And while Europe is developing its own hypersonic capabilities, like the UK's $1.26 billion investment in hypersonic missile development, it's a race against time. Europe won't have fully functional hypersonic weapons until 2030 at the earliest, and that's being optimistic. NATO's collective defense strategy hinges on more than just firepower. It's about being able to move troops and equipment quickly across borders. One of the most important aspects of Europe's military rebuild is the establishment of new land corridors, also known as ground lines of communications. These predetermined routes are designed to move troops from naval ports of entry all the way to the Russian or Ukrainian borders. It's a smart move, as speed will be essential in any future conflict. In fact, NATO has been ramping up its military exercises, like Steadfast Defender, which in 2024 became the largest military exercise in Europe since the Cold War. This involved over 90,000 troops, 50 naval vessels, and 80 aircraft. The goal? To ensure that in the event of war, NATO forces can deploy rapidly and operate as a single, cohesive unit. But war isn't just fought on the battlefield anymore. Cyber warfare has become an essential part of modern conflict. That's why countries like Estonia are playing a critical role in NATO's defense strategy. Located on the front lines of cyber attacks from Russia, Estonia has become NATO's hub for cybersecurity. It's here where research, development, and response protocols are being built to counter the rising threat of cyber warfare. And with Russia's overwhelming missile capability, air defense is becoming a top priority for Europe. As it stands, NATO can only defend about 5% of its airspace, leaving vast portions of the continent vulnerable. To counter this, countries like Germany are leading initiatives like the European Sky Shield Initiative, aimed at building long-range air defense systems specifically designed to defend against ballistic missiles. In fact, American Patriot and French SAMP-T systems are already in place, but they're not enough to cover the entire continent. No discussion about Europe's military readiness would be complete without addressing the elephant in the room: nuclear weapons. The UK and France are the only European countries with their own nuclear arsenals, but the United States holds about 100 tactical nukes across Europe, primarily in Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, and Turkey. These nukes are designed to hit high-value military targets, but the specter of nuclear war still looms large. Russia holds the world's largest nuclear arsenal, with over 4,000 warheads, far outmatching anything Europe has on hand. Some European nations, like Poland, have even requested American tactical nukes to be stationed within their borders, especially after Russia moved its own nuclear warheads into Belarus and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. While this hasn't been approved yet, the fact that it's being discussed highlights just how serious the situation has become. At the end of the day, Europe's military rearmament is a response to a dangerous and unpredictable world. Whether it's hypersonic missiles, nuclear deterrence, or cyber warfare, European nations are scrambling to address their vulnerabilities. But the real question is, will it be enough? Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Europe's military efforts are enough to deter future conflict? Or are they too little, too late? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on global security, defense strategies, and current events.